Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. So as you can see by the title, today I'm going to be sharing my first and probably only blind date experience with you guys. I really want to start doing more story time and advice type videos on my channel because I feel like I just have so many stories, number one. I feel like I've learned a lot, and I really hope that through sharing these stories I can really prevent these types of situations from happening to you guys. So that being said, let's jump into the story. So I feel like before I share the story, I kind of want to give you guys a little background as far as where I was in life and how I got to this point. So long story short, I was in an on and off 5-year relationship with my high school sweetheart, and we had broken up pretty shortly before I went on this date. This was actually the first real date I went on since we had broken up. I was pretty open-minded, I feel like, in my eyes, to the idea of meeting someone new, being exposed to different mindsets, and I was just really, I feel prepared, in the sense that I didn't have expectations, and I was just really interested in getting to meet new people and see what there was out there. So as far as how the blind date actually got set up in the first place, so at this time I was working at a full service salon in my town, and I was assisting the owner, and we were working on this client. She was super sweet. This lady was so sweet. She actually brought biscotti she made to the salon, and she was sharing them with everyone, and she just really was a super positive, really genuinely nice person. One thing to know as a stylist is that we spend a lot of time talking to our clients, getting to know them. This was the first time I had met her, and I was really trying to build that relationship with her and get to know her. And so she started to open up to me about having 2 sons and how they had just moved here about 2 years ago. And I was like, no way, I moved here 2 years ago as well from New York. So we both had that in common, and she proceeded to ask me a couple questions about have I had a hard time meeting people? And I was like, yes, I actually have. It's something that I've really been struggling with, is meeting people around my age. And she was like, oh my gosh, my son had the same problem. So she started talking about her son a lot more. She was saying how he was 22 and I'm 20, so we're pretty close in age. And she was like, yeah, he really had a hard time meeting people, and he really had to get himself involved in things in order to find his group of friends that he has now. And so she was like, I could totally give him your number, and I'm sure he would introduce you to his friends. Normally I'm pretty hesitant about those things, especially at work, just in case something were to happen. So I normally say no, but I feel just because of her personality and how open and friendly she was, and she just gave off really positive vibes, and I really liked that. I was like, well, she must have a pretty amazing son, right? So I totally did something I normally wouldn't do, and I gave her my number to give to him, and he texted me pretty shortly after I had gotten out of work that day. Really quickly, I want to take a step back before we move into the text and the future date I'm about to go on. So back to talking to the mom. She was asking me a lot of questions about myself. She was asking me do you go to school? And I explained to her, yes, I'm in school for accounting, but I also went to school for cosmetology, and so I'm in school a lot. It's something that I really enjoy, is being in school and learning. And I proceeded to tell her a lot of the things that I'm interested in and I'm involved in, and blah blah blah. I basically was saying that I'm super motivated, driven person and whatnot. So now that I've shared that, we're gonna move on to what is about to be a disaster. So I proceeded to get out of work that day, and I saw I had a text from an unknown number. So I was kind of expecting this boy was gonna text me, and he did, and he basically seemed very friendly, was like, hey, how are you? My mom gave me your number. She told me that, you're still pretty new to the area and basically having a hard time meeting people. And then I proceeded to say, yes, that's all true. So he basically was like, I would love for you to meet my friends, if you want to hang out one day. And to be honest with you, at first I was kind of I think maybe we should meet first. I don't know that I'd want to walk into a party of you and your friends. I don't even know you. I obviously don't know your friends. So I basically was like, would you be down to get coffee one day or something? He, I think, instantly shut that down and was like, no, I don't really like coffee, but we could totally go out to dinner or something. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So now I have his number and his name, and a lot of the times you're able to find people on social media once you have their number. So I'm trying to find him with his name and number, and I can't find him anywhere on social media. I pretty much texted him and I'm like, hey, do you have any social media accounts? And he was like, no, I have absolutely no social media. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm thinking in my head, that's cool. Everyone these days has social media. It's awesome that, you don't give into that, and that you can totally be fine without all of that. So I was like, okay, that's cool. But then at the same time, I'm like, I've never seen a picture of you, and I'm thinking to myself like, We decided to meet for dinner at Cheddar's, which is just like a restaurant nearby. So again, I have no idea what this guy looks like I have no idea what I'm looking for or anything. So we meet, and we both like walked in at the same time. It was kind of weird. We looked at each other and we were like, okay, like I guess this is our date. So to be honest with you, like just at first glance, like physical wise, I really wasn't that attracted to him. He was pretty short, probably the same height as me, and I'm 5'2", so pretty short. He was okay looking, but again, not really my type. But I was like, you know what, like what if he has a great personality, and it will like totally overshine all of that. So still like feeling pretty positive about this date. So we just sit down, we got seated pretty quickly. We're at a really small booth, like just a 2-seater, which like really forces you to like be very close to that person. So I proceed to sit down, and he sits down in front of me, and the first thing this boy says to me, and I'm calling him a boy because you will see why. The first thing he says to me is, I think I'm about to get fired from my job tomorrow. And I looked at him and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I don't know about you, but I don't know if that's the best first impression. I am all about first impressions. I'm all about body language. I'm all about like eye contact. Like those things are very important to me. And right off the bat, I was just like, what? So he proceeded to like just go on about how he cursed out his boss today, and that's why he was able to go on this date with me. And he was like, yeah, I'll probably even be able to see you tomorrow because I might not have a job. And I was like, oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. But at the same time, I'm thinking like, okay, well, why did you curse out your boss? Like, and so he went on for about like, I would say 10 minutes or so about losing his job tomorrow. And I said, like, again, I'm really sorry to hear that. Like, I hope everything works out okay. And he's like, oh, well, truthfully, I don't like it anyway. I really hope I get fired and whatnot. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, did you go to school? Like, I'm trying to, like, make small talk with him at this point. Like, kind of move past the, I'm about to lose my job because I cursed my boss out part. I was like, do you have a degree? Like, did you go to school or anything? Like, are you in school? And he was like, no, I actually dropped out of high school and I don't believe in college. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was kind of like, okay. Do you have, like, are you in a trade or anything? Like, what do you like to do? And he's like, oh, not really. I just kind of pick up jobs whenever I can. Nothing against not going to school, nothing against dropping out of high school. I get that school's not for everyone, like I totally get that. But at the same time, you have to be interested in something. Like something. And he was telling me how he is on a kickball league, and that's how he met a lot of his friends. Really like to party. I'm thinking to myself like, okay, that's cool, that's great. And now mind you, he just continues to talk. So he has yet to ask me anything about myself, yet to ask me like what I like to do in my free time, like nothing about myself. It was quite crazy. And it was so bad to the point where like the waiter came over and could tell like it was just so awkward. Like he didn't even want to interrupt us. I was like, please interrupt us. Like please ask what I want to eat because I don't know what to say right now. Now at this point he's telling me like a lot of his friends are a lot older, and by a lot older I don't mean like 25, 26. I mean like 35, married, have kids. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like how did you meet them? And he was saying how he met them through like kickball and all that stuff. And I was like, that's cool, that's great. I don't really think that's something I'm really interested in, to be honest with you, but that's awesome. Like, again, I'm trying to be pretty positive and, like, let him know that I'm listening, but the conversation just kept going south. So now after we were talking about his friends, he, again, doesn't stop to ask me anything about myself yet. At this point, I knew his mom had lived in my town, so I proceeded to ask him, like, hey, do you, like, live with your mom? Like, do you live in my town by any chance? And he was like, no, I actually live a few towns over, and I live with a roommate. She's so awesome. She, like, doesn't make me pay a lot at all for rent. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, and then he kept saying she. So I'm like, okay, like, is it, like, a cousin? Is it, like, a friend? You know, like, who is this person? And he's like, oh, she's actually, like, this older lady. She's around, like, 45 and, like, has a cat. And so first thing that pops in my mind is crazy cat lady. And then I'm also thinking like, okay, is she like his sugar mama? Like, I'm not really sure like if I'm supposed to ask that. It freaked me out a lot, actually. At that point, I was just kind of like, this is not gonna work. So now at this point, he's kind of being a lot more quiet. I think we had just gotten like our drinks. So I thought it was a perfect time for me to chime in and like start talking about myself, right? Because, you know, I've heard a lot about him for like the past 25 minutes. I think it's time that, you know, I talk. And thinking back, I'm surprised that I wanted to, because normally I would just shut off right then and there if I felt like I wasn't interested, and I really wasn't interested within like the first 3 minutes. So I'm surprised that I even like went to the extent to talk. I think it was just one of those things where like I felt like I couldn't leave because I hadn't gotten my food yet, and so I was just kind of like trying to like get through dinner. So I proceeded to tell him like, okay, well, like I have 3 sisters, and I moved here from New York, and just like the basics, like, you know, I'm in school for accounting. And once I said that, he literally stopped me. He was like, wait, you're in school for accounting? Good luck with that. Like, to my face said that to me, like stopped me to say that. And I was like, what do you mean, good luck with that? He's like, well, you know, a lot of my friends can't find a job out of school, and that's why I don't go to college. And I was like, oh, well, I'm a pretty driven person. I work really hard, and I know the things I want, and I know I'm capable of it. So yeah. So after that happened, I got very annoyed. I got pretty angered, and I was just like riled up at this point. So I continued to talk and say, yeah, I'm also a cosmetologist. Like, that's how I met your mom. And he's like, oh, does that mean you can give me a free haircut? No, I will not give you a free haircut because we are on the worst date of my entire life. So finally, thank heavens, dinner arrives at the table, and I can finally like stop talking and we can just eat. So we're eating, again, super awkward. He's like making no eye contact with me. It was one of those things where it's like, it wasn't that he wasn't interested, because flat out said like, you're really, really pretty. But it was also one of those things where it's like, is this what you're like on every date? Because this is not acceptable. And I also stopped for a moment to think and say to myself, like, did she really set me up with her son? Someone who is super unmotivated, not driven at all, has no ambitions in life. Like, there was just nothing there. It was really upsetting to me because I feel like I made it pretty clear that I was very driven, I was motivated, I like don't have a lot of time to waste. I spent a lot of my time like working on things that I want for myself, and so I was really kind of like hurt that she thought like we would be a good match. And then I said to myself, you know, maybe she thought like I could fix her son. So I'm like, okay, I kind of forgive her, but now it's gonna be really weird when I have to go back to work and see her. Now at this point, I literally shifted my entire body this way because I didn't want to look at him at this point anymore. Like, I was so angered by the things he was saying. I was so angered that he like just totally shut down like the things I said. I was just really over this date and wanting to go home. So at this point, I'm like turning my body around, I'm like eating my food, he's trying to talk to me again, and I'm like really not about it. But thankfully, like dinner went really quick, like we just sat there and ate. Luckily, the waiter brought the check very quickly, like while we were still eating. And I literally took it and was like, don't worry, I'm gonna pay for my food. Because at this point, like I don't want him to get the impression like I'm having a good time, or I even want like a part 2. I literally paid my bill and we walked out together. He literally looked at me as if I was gonna kiss him and was like, hey, do you wanna go see a movie? I was like, I'm sorry, like I actually really need to get home now, but I really appreciate the offer. And he's like, okay, well just text me. And I'm thinking like, okay. So I didn't even hug him. Like, I really just wanted the message to be clear that I really was not enjoying myself. Like, there was nothing about it that I was happy about. He thought I was going to. Like, no, nothing about that date was positive. Nothing about it went well. It was not good. But yeah, definitely not the ideal first date after getting out of a super long relationship, but it has prepared me for like future dates and stuff like that, like what I want, what I don't want. And I think it's important, like even though that was like an awful date and I was super uncomfortable and like angered by what this person had to say, I think it's important sometimes that like we experience that. We say, okay, like I definitely know that's not something that I want in my life. I don't want a negative person. And that wasn't even a Tinder story, is what's so funny. That was like a blind date. If you guys enjoyed hearing these types of like story time date stories, I have a ton of them. I actually have a lot of Tinder stories. So if that's something you guys would be interested in hearing about, then let me know in the comments down below. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.